we'll begin inshallah. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah. We seek His help and His forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own souls and from our bad deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whomsoever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is His slave and messenger. So the overview of what we're going to be looking at today, inshallah, is as follows. We will look at how we can know our Creator, and moving on and linking this with how we can understand that. If you want to click full screen, you can do it with the link at the bottom. It might make it easier. And also through the chat, if any of you want to ask questions or raise any comments, please feel free to do so. So as we were saying, after we've looked at how we can know our Creator, we will look at the purpose of revelation, moving on to how we can understand Islam as a way of life. And then the second part, we'll look at how we can best serve our Creator, and there'll be some discussion points at the end as well. But if you have anything to add or comment on or ask during the course of the session, please feel free to do so, inshallah. So firstly, looking at knowing our Creator. Who or what is God? That's the question we're beginning with. There's many different understandings that people have of what God is. Is he or she or it a higher power? All that is good is God, with the counter to that being all that is evil being another force which many people know as the devil. Is he the creator? Is he just the first cause? You know, all these different things. What is God? And many people have these different ideas, and we want to understand how we can best understand who or what God is. I think most people who believe in a God or a higher power would accept that He is the creator. And keeping in mind what Dr. Rizwan did his circle about the names of God, we'll use them interchangeably here, but I think we all understand what we mean. Everybody who believes in a God will believe that He is the creator or the originator of everything. And there are two ways in which we can understand our Creator, or come to know of Him, or learn about Him better, or understand Him better. One is al-aql, which is intellectual reasoning, and that is using the mind which each and every one of us have been given, and understanding how that can be used. Inshallah, we'll look at in the next few slides. Now, many people say that are just another category of animal, that we are closely related to the animal kingdom, certain types in particular. But there is one thing that does set us apart from animals, and that is this faculty of reasoning that we have, that does make us unique, and which is, as some scholars say, why Allah refers to the children of Adam by saying "Karramna bani Adam," we have ennobled or honored the children of Adam. It's also why human beings are described as Ashraf al-Makhluqat, as the most honored of creation. It's because of this thing, and it's perhaps this thing which the angels did not understand when Allah created Adam alayhi salam, and they said, why are you going to create somebody? As we know, the account in Surah Al-Baqarah says, but Allah said, I know that which you know not. So it's through our intellectual reasoning that we can come to understand our Creator. And secondly, wahi, revelation, is another way that we can come to understand Allah and learn more about Him. Moving on. So al-aql, we can look at it in a number of ways. All of us have been born with this natural disposition, as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ tells us, that we all have this thing called fitra within us, which we can understand as being a natural disposition or default mode of operation that human beings have. And this default mode, or this fitra or natural disposition, is one we are told that we need to recognize this higher power. So all the different cultures in the world, all the people that have existed that have acknowledged that there is something bigger and greater than us. It's born from this fitra, this natural inclination to believe in a higher power. Also, we have our senses, and we experience, we see the signs which God has created in all of creation, in ourselves, in nature, in the heavens. All over there are signs, and many scholars say that Allah revealed two books, if you will, figuratively speaking. One being the book, the Quran, which contains ayat, which we commonly translate as verses, but really the word means signs. And also the creation, which in many places in the Quran, Allah refers to the signs within creation, the ayat of creation, which we are all called upon to ponder and reflect, as the verse on the slide says, "Inna fi khalqi samawati wal ard wa ikhtilafi al-layli wan nahari la ayatin li ulil albab." Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of the night and the day are signs for those of understanding. So those of understanding will be those, in this verse it's referred to as ulil albab, the people of lub, or deep thinking and pondering. In other verses, similar concepts are given, and Allah talks about people who yaqilun, who use their intellect, or yatafakkarun, people who think and contemplate. It's all the same idea of using your aql to understand that there is something greater. So this reflection and reasoning and pondering on the creation and what have you can only take us so far. At best, I would say that it can make us agnostic. It can take us to a point where, as the definition on the slide says, that we can be somebody who holds that the existence of the ultimate cause, you could call him God, and the essential nature of things are unknown and unknowable, or that human knowledge is limited to experience. So basically, what that's saying is that if we spent a long time reflecting on creation and thinking about where everything came from, the ultimate point we would come back to is saying that I don't know. Yes, I think there's something greater, but I don't actually know. And that is, I would say, a very honest position for a human being to take, that they generally don't know. They've spent the time thinking about it and contemplating, but they've reached a conclusion where they don't know. And that's actually very honest, because that person has stopped at where their reason can take them. So if we contrast that to atheism, where people categorically deny the existence of a God or a creator or a higher power, that's almost ironically a faith-based position, because as God and creation and such like are immeasurable things, to take such a strong stance and say, I categorically deny this, it's almost like a faith-based position. It's almost the same as somebody saying, I categorically believe that there is something. So, as the philosopher Immanuel Kant said, knowledge is provided by experience through the senses. The conclusion is that we can never know actual reality as it truly is if we are dependent on our senses. We can only know something as we experience it in ourselves. Now, there is a lot of truth in that everything we in our minds as individuals know is only through the faculty of our senses, of our sight, of our hearing, of our smell, etc. So we can never know the true reality. And this is again acknowledging that human beings are limited. But what this can lead us to is that we can become relativist. We can just say that my reality is only what I perceive, and somebody else's reality may be something else. But this is coming in the reason why these points or these confusions are arising is because we're reaching the limit or the extent of the role of the intellect. Something else is needed to complete the picture. So this journey of personal reflection, which is actually something that every human being should take, whether we consider ourselves believers or non-believers or Muslims or Christians or whatever, every single one of us is required to go on this journey of reflection and contemplation. Whether we were born into a faith or not, most of us who have been born Muslims take this for granted, that somehow we were born with this inbuilt reflection already done, or if our parents or grandparents or generations even further back went through this period of reflection, that somehow we've inherited that as well. That's simply not the case. As individuals, we need to come to this through our own efforts. And it's this personal reflection that should lead us to acknowledge the presence of a higher power. Now, there's a danger where we bypass that and have religion in a way handed to us on a plate, where we haven't gone through that experience of getting to know our Lord, our Creator, and thinking about where we stand in relation to Him, and we just take the rules and think that religion is just about do's and don'ts and what have you. And that's why we see, sadly, many people who are not very committed to their faith because they've never really contemplated it. So each and every one of us, and many people say that everybody has to go through a point when they accept Islam or accept faith themselves consciously, not unconsciously, because we know that Islam is, as many verses tell us, for people who think and reflect. Now, the prophets are people who went through these deep periods of reflection themselves. They all went through a process of thinking about creation, and then it was when they were in that state that revelation came to them. If we look at the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to withdraw to the cave of Hira, and it was there that he was really deeply in meditation, in reflection, thinking about creation, thinking about what the purpose of life was, and in that state, Allah chose to reveal the Quran upon him. Why is it that moment in time that Allah gave the Quran to him? Of course, it's in His ultimate wisdom that it was that point that was chosen, but it didn't come when he was idly sitting by or what have you. And the prophets themselves were not people who would idly sit by or just get into the rigmarole of life and not really bother about big questions. They were people who were searching, and then Allah rewarded them with guidance. Now, each and every one of us, as I said, needs to go on one of these journeys. As the Quran says in the opening verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the book in which there is no doubt, guidance for those who are conscious of Allah. Very interestingly, so guidance for those who are conscious of Allah. So does that mean if one is not conscious of Allah or unconscious of Allah, that the guidance will come to them? Or does it mean that one already has to be conscious of God before they're even a Muslim? There's some things for us to think about. That we already need to be in a position where we have taqwa or piety, or there's so many translations. It's a very hard thing to capture. The whole idea of consciously being aware of God. When somebody is in that state, that guidance comes to them, and as we know, it's Allah who is the guide, Al-Hadi, who will bestow His guidance upon us. So reason and revelation, as we've looked at, they actually go hand in hand, and we can't really have one without the other. If we have purely just reason and intellect without revelation, it will lead to deviance, and it will lead to us, speculating about things which we don't know and can never know, and we may end up going astray, as happened to many groups in Islamic history. Many groups who were under the umbrella of Islam ended up deviating and going outside because they exercised their reason in areas where it wasn't appropriate, such as contemplating on the person of God, on